Welcome back to Q-Dads, I'm Steve, and yes, the time has finally arrived for Apple's latest masterpiece, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. We're going to be diving deep into the first two episodes of the series, breaking down all the details for you, as well as discussing our theories for the upcoming episodes. Overall, I think Apple TV has delivered another gem with Monarch. It allows us to become more invested in the Monsterverse, rather than just being something you watch for the monster fights. Do I recommend this? Absolutely, and here's why. I'm going to split up this breakdown, starting with episode 1. Episode 1 starts with the sneak peek of the first 2 minutes we had a week or so ago, where John Goodman's character, Bill Randa, is on Skull Island and wants to create the Monarch legacy by throwing this mystery package into the ocean. Touching quickly onto the intro for a moment, it seems they have split the perspective with 2 different timelines being shown, 1972 and 2015. Although we are hit with a few other throughout the episode, it's made very clear from the offset we'll be jumping throughout different time periods. We see Cate entering Tokyo in 2015. She's reminded of the San Francisco attack 1 year prior. She learns about the after effects of the Godzilla attack and the monster prep not only the city is doing to prepare for a Titan attack, but the people taking advantage of the current circumstances, with some even thinking San Francisco was CGI. A nice little thing that made me laugh here was the taxi driver telling her San Francisco was a hoax and that he even has a podcast.
San Francisco was a hoax. There's more. I have a podcast.
Now, this is set in 2015, just as podcasts were starting to gain popularity, so I thought it was a nice little nod to that. Entering her father's apartment, she realises another family is living inside there, giving us our first introduction into Kentaro. We then head to 1959, where we're introduced to Lee Shaw and a young Bill Randa as they investigate a possible Titan hotspot with Kate's grandmother. They meet a Russian boy who tells them there's a hole leading to hell. The team then head into the abandoned facility, where, as always, the residual radiation is being consumed by whatever Titan lurks beneath. The team use a circular bombing technique to reveal the hidden Titan nursery below. We quickly cut back to Cate as she is escorted to a safe zone from a potential Titan attack. Here we get a flashback to San Francisco, where we finally feel some emotion towards the carnage that's going on. In the Monsterverse movies, your attention is often focused on the Titans and the fights between them, rather than the realistic effect they had on their surrounding. As she tries to evacuate the school bus, we see it fall off a bridge, lugging several children to their death. A devastating scene, but captured well. Bravo, Apple. Bravo. We then head back to Cate as her and Kentaro open their dad's safe, revealing the Monarch bag Bill Randa dropped into the ocean. We're then introduced to May, the group's tech expert. She helps them access the files on a hard drive. We also hear a brilliant line about Bigfoot.
Is that Bigfoot?
The episode then ends with Lee and Keiko running from some newly hatched monsters in a rush to escape the pit. The creatures latch on and end up dragging Keiko back down, all the way to this hell. Overall, a great first episode, good character development so far, and great insights into Monarch. But we're not stopping there. Yes, we have an episode 2 to discuss as well. So before we give you our theories, let's jump in. Episode 2 starts with Lee and how he meets up with Keiko. This started in the Philippines, as Lee is tasked with escorting Keiko to the potential Titan sightings. I do like how the characters react to each other in this part of the episode. I think it's good to see them have some depth, as sometimes in these sci-fi shows, the characters can be a little one-dimensional. Bear in mind here, this is 2 years before Godzilla first attacked Tokyo, so their Titan knowledge at this point is limited. We then cut to Kentaro as he discovers about Lee from his father's files and where he is now. At first when I saw this, I did question how involved was his father, but there's a scene later on that implies he's very much a part of Monarch. Back to 1952, as Bill meets Keiko and Lee for the first time, bringing the trio together, all hunting for the same thing, a Muto. Tim from Monarch meets Cate in a train station, and after bundling her into a shady car ride, Cate causes the car to crash and escapes the clutches of Monarch. Kentaro heads back to Maze in an attempt to get the video from the Philippines. She refuses and goes back to completely transferring all the files to what I assume will be some form of portable storage. Cate attempts to speak to the police, but is brushed off as the officer is calling the embassy. Well, we assume it's the embassy, have Monarch already got their claws into the Japanese government. Cate heads to Maze as we find Monarch have already raided her apartment. The two then leave for a nice bowl of ramen. Kentaro returns home for then Tim to knock on the door, demanding the files. Kentaro manages to evade them, but not before Tim takes a good look at Hiroshi, Kentaro's father. Now, let's latch on to this. Hiroshi is clearly the son of Bill Randa and Keiko, so we can only assume he knew all about his parents' work. So I do think it's highly likely he's part of Monarch, or at least he's been tracking all the Titans. We cut back to 1952 as Lee's still unsure of Bill. In the end, Keiko tells Lee to leave, and he does. Bill and Keiko then discover they have a map, as Bill's documented movements of the legend lines up with the radiation lines, leading them to discover the Lawson. We'll discuss more on how the Lawson ended up there in the end. They make their way inside the ship, only to discover Bill's trunk, as he reveals he's the only survivor, and they believe they hit a Japanese sub in 1943. This obviously being the reason Bill decided to track down the Mutos in the first place. As they dig deeper, we cut back to Lee, as he sees ionised radiation in the sky, which now clearly looks like a flight path. He heads back to the Lawson. We then cut back to 2015, as Cate, May and Kentaro all meet up and decide they need to find Lee. Back to the Lawson, as Bill and Keiko discover the bodies of the crew from 9 years ago, coated in some organic matter. This organic matter does seem to be preserving the bodies though, as some of them still have skin. We can only assume the Muto is keeping them as an additional food source. The two decide they have enough evidence and attempt to head out, but are then attacked by the dragon-like Muto. We then cut back to Japan, as the group find their way to what looks like a military facility, housing the colonel. Clearly, Lee did something else to gain this new rank. Could this be something to do with the Godzilla attack that happens in Tokyo in 1954? Lee is surprised to see them, asking them all for their names, before the big reveal being that Kentaro and Cate both have the surname Randa, confirming they are the grandkids of Keiko and Bill. Surprisingly here though, Lee knows about Kentaro, but not about Cate. Does this imply Cate's family were the secret ones? I have a theory on this, so we'll get to that at the end. Lee then explains the facility is being monitored by Monarch, and are they actually sure Hiroshi is dead? Before then cutting his ankle monitor and telling the group they have 60 seconds to decide if they want to find out the truth. For our final trip to the past, we cut back to the Lawson, under siege by the Muto, causing Bill to be pinned down, only for Lee to arrive in time to save them both. They all manage to escape the boat, leading to this brilliant scene where we get a full view of the new Muto as the episode ends. Well, firstly, I think these two episodes were a great introduction to the series. I think it's safe to say the series is going to explore the start of Monarch and possibly the attack on Tokyo. I'm so pleased we actually got new Mutos too, as I was worried we'd only get flashes of Godzilla from the movie. Right then, on to the theories. Firstly, is Keiko actually dead? Now this might seem far-fetched, but we saw her dragged down by the larvae. Could she have fallen all the way through to Hollow Earth? Yes, we did say we probably won't see it. However, if she fell down encased by the larvae, she might have survived. We've seen people survive a similar environment before, much like Hank Marlowe in Kong Skull Island. Second, the Lawson. You could almost be convinced that maybe it was dragged to the Philippines by the dragon-like Muto, but I think this might have actually been by Godzilla or another Titan we've yet to see. As Bill says, they hit something in the water that they thought was a Japanese sub. It doesn't look like the dragon Muto would be in the water, so I wonder which Titan they hit and how they were actually dragged there. Could it have contained something nuclear at the time? Could multiple Mutos have attacked it looking for the radiation? We've seen cave pictures on the films showing us Titans working together, so could this have been the same thing? Do you think we'll see some Titans form a pack? Third, on to Hiroshi. I don't think it's a coincidence he went missing on a trip to Antarctica. If you remember from the movies, 1, this is the best location to Hollow Earth, and 2, is the location of Ghidorah. So I believe Hiroshi is actually fully alive and part of a crew that discovers or has discovered Ghidorah. Could they have attempted a mission to Hollow Earth or something similar, as clearly he had been tracking the Titans via satellite for years? Not only that, the fact they mentioned the Muto were terrestrial, this had been a nod to what was mentioned in the 2019 film, that Ghidorah could have been from space. And on to my final theory, this might also seem like a bit of a stretch. Clearly, Lee has no knowledge of Cate and her mom, which makes me think Kentaro and Emiko were Hiroshi's original family. Could Lee have been against Hiroshi joining Monarch, so he did it in secret in America, meeting Cate's mom, who I fully expect to be a former member of Monarch? Are they hiding her face on purpose, as she's going to pop up in one of the flashbacks? Overall, I'm excited for the next episode. I'm really happy we have new monsters popping up. I'm also intrigued to find out more about the origins of Monarch and where this will all tie in, ready for next year's film. I really do hope we see parts of the 1954 attack too. What do you think of the series so far? Do you think we'll actually see new Godzilla footage? And finally, do you think Cate's mom could be part of Monarch? We'll be dropping our cast next week, where we have a more detailed discussion on some of the points above, so join us for that. Please like and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow. And as always, catch you next time with something new.